Good morning, trading world. It is April 4th, 2023, and this is my pre-market outlook and technical analysis for day trading the markets. The title of today's outlook is we entered an irrational period yesterday, so intraday signals are virtually irrelevant for the moment. I've talked about this briefly before, talking about these periods of irrationality that happens for morning and brief periods. But we had an entire day of irrationality that looks to continue today. Now, usually we get mornings of irrationality every so often when we get gaps in order flow that show in strength and breadth. This irrationality takes place when a higher time frame is in control at the same time as a gap in order flow happens. The combination of events will render signals useless on most time frames below the time frame in control. Another side effect that happens in these moments is this is where we get these real crazy readings of overbought on intraday indicators. As you can see here, like we way above 80 on the RSI. These events happen, during these irrational periods. It's rare that the pecking order is monthly, weekly, then daily time frame. This is why we could experience days in this irrational state. Usually when we have a morning of irrational behavior, it's because there is only one big time frame in the pecking order. Say, for example, we'll have a weekly and then 4 hour, and then the daily may be behind that. So because we're lined up perfectly where it's monthly, weekly, daily, just like that, what I talked about, the variance being so big on the weekly time frame that it's hard to really see because we're in a fog. The same thing is happening right now on a bigger scale with the irrational behavior right now, because we're in that area of variance on the monthly, weekly. Well, we were definitely in it in the weekly, but because of the pecking order, monthly, weekly, daily, we could kind of remain like this for a couple of days until one of those time frames gives up its power in the pecking order. So that I'll be waiting to see. The monthly has already kind of stepped down, where the pecking order this morning is weekly, monthly, then daily. So this is often a weird time to trade. A lot of people usually get chopped up because they're seeing a signal that says one thing, like the bearish. Even my signals, everything said bearish. If you can go back to Monday's pre-market outlook, all the signals were bearish. I even made that comment that everything was bearish, but it didn't feel right to me, and I even threw out hints not to get bearish because it was going to make us look like April Fools. So these are things that you, like, over time you kind of pick up on. We remain in this state today Usually when we have a morning, this morning, like I said, the weekly has moved ahead in the pecking order, which gives me reason to believe we could push for 415 to the 418 area at some point this week. Being long is in right now, but after today, I wouldn't be caught dead holding an index long overnight. Because when the pecking order changes, there's no telling what we could see, and we could get these flashes long because signals are still bearish. We have a bearish outlook for the week. So with us having that bearish outlook for the week, if we get out of this irrational state, we could see a huge drop or flash drop happen really quickly and out of nowhere. So be very careful of that. Be very careful of trying to stay in these indexes like the SPY or the NASDAQ long, especially overnight, because we could wake up and be gapped down 100. So be very careful about that. This brings us to the key levels to watch for today. All right, here we are with the key levels of the day. Starting on the resistance side, we have our jack resistance, the 412 to the 413 area. Queen resistance, 414 to the 415 area. If you remember yesterday, I called this area out, saying we could possibly look to form a new head in a new head and shoulders pattern building that could take us to where the head is being made now, and we look for another shoulder out in maybe July, August, September, somewhere in there, where we're going to build the other shoulder. And it's quite possibly that head is going to be up here around somewhere between this 415 and 418 area. This takes us to our king resistance, which is 416 to the 418 area. Come back to support. We have our jack support at the 411 to the 410 area. Queen support 409 to the 407 area, and then king support 403 to the 400 area. It's quite possible we could be setting up something really crazy on maybe Thursday, being that Thursday will be the primary expiration this week, since we have a 4-day trade week, where we could really see some crazy activity, whether it's a real pop high getting up to this 418 area and above, or coming back to our senses, which I think is more likely. We get a drop back down somewhere between this 407 and 403 area. The main thesis for today is bearish, closing below the 410.95 with a projected target low of between 409 and 407. But like we said yesterday, this is a period of irrational behavior, so the more explosive alternate thesis is more likely, and that alternate thesis is bullish, closing above the 410.95 with a projected target high of between 410 and 418. The main channel we're in is from 397 up to 416. The main channel below is 390 to 379, and we should be aware of the main channel above, where we are at 416 up to 425. Yesterday, market strength and breadth opened gap down and popped up immediately, making an expanding range or megaphone pattern, which signaled further expansion. That's why we're up coming into this morning. I expect strength to open gap up and at some point begin to consolidate as we begin to look for signs of coming out of this irrational period. We have harmony between the technical side, which is bearish, and the quant side, which is also bearish. The futures have a bearish bias for the day with harmony between the technical side, which is bearish, and the quant side, which is also bearish. But again, we have to remember we are in an irrational period where intraday signals don't mean anything. So, expect the alternate thesis. This brings us to the scenarios of the day. All right, our first and most probable scenario is going to be our trend day up. On our trend day up day type structure, we open gap up and start with a push back toward the previous close represented by the blue line. We usually find support on or before that previous close, then begin the uptrend for the day. We usually find midday chop around either the possible queen or king resistance area. Not always, but a lot of times coming out the second part of the day, it looks as if we want to continue the primary trend of the morning, which was up, but it usually turns into a head fake in which at some point we usually get a fade going back into the closing at some point. So that is our trend day up, which is the highest probability of scenarios for today. Let's bring up the next scenario. All right, our next most probable scenario is going to be our rounded reversal day type structure. We could get a continued push higher off the cash open toward the jack or queen resistance area and find midday chop around either the queen or king resistance before going back down with the same energy or force we went up with the first part of the day. Also, it is very important to be aware of the vice versa alert on this day type for today because we could see a pretty much opposite happen, which is a continued push lower through the cash open. Find our midday chop around either the possible queen or king support area, and then see a move back up with the same amount of force or energy as we had coming down during the first part of the day. So that is our rounded reversal day type structure and the vice versa alert that we need to be aware of today. All right, the last and least probable scenario is going to be our range day type structure. We could begin the day at the upper end of an exhaustion consolidation pattern, trying to gather energy to continue but fading back to support. This is our range day structure. As I usually and always try to end most videos with, your most important job as a trader is to protect the capital that you already have. And we do this by knowing and understanding the risk that we have on in each position and managing that risk in accordance to our account size. I hope this helps. And again, remember this is an irrational period. So intraday trading signals, indicators, they may be irrelevant right now. Until that pecking order changes, things will just not seem right, and a lot of people are going to get chopped out and fooled. So be very careful. It's a reason I kind of came into the week saying, talking about watching my risk and only trading a half a position, half of my normal position size, and just being very careful, because when things happen like this irrational, you see things that you normally see and you think that it's okay to take that position, not realizing that the market is in that irrational state. So what you're seeing, it doesn't really mean what it would normally mean. So again, I hope this helps. Wishing you a positive trading day. Let's go out and make it a great one.